Hello everybody, it's Matt here again. I just want to do a quick comparison of the Oneplus One on the left versus the One Touch Idol 3. Now these are both budget phones. The Oneplus One's been out for about a year and the Idol 3 was just released. It's actually not even released, it's supposed to be released until Monday, the 25th of May. Anyways, I got mine a little early, so I'm just going to do a quick comparison. So first of all, let's talk about the size and weight. The Oneplus One and the Idol 3, this is Idol 3, this is Oneplus One, they both are 5.5 inch screens that are Full HD, meaning they're 1920 by 1080p resolution. Now, the Oneplus One is more of a flagship type phone, and the Idol 3 is more of a budget mid-range phone. Anyways, you can tell that the Idol 3 is much lighter. I'd say it's about 2/3 the weight of the Oneplus One. And the Idol 3 build quality does not feel as solid. It feels more plasticky and kind of creaky a little bit. I don't know, you can kind of push it down and creak, whereas you can't do that with the Oneplus One because the Oneplus One really is a really solid phone. Now, let's talk about the software. Now, so the Oneplus One, it runs Android 5.0 Lollipop, but it runs what they call CyanogenMod, which is a custom version of Lollipop that has some nice, useful features. The One Touch Idol 3 also runs Lollipop, but it's more of a vanilla build. Now, aside from actually, let me talk about the screens one more time. So the screen on the Oneplus One looks a little bit more crisp. So the way I'm going to show that comparison is I am going to turn up the brightness on both screens. I'll let you see kind of the difference. Oh. Okay, so both screens are maxed brightness, and I feel like and you might not be able to see it in the video, but I feel like the Oneplus One has a little bit higher quality screen, meaning the colors are a little bit more crisp. They don't blur together as much, and that might just be me and being a little bit biased. I think the Oneplus One's a little bit better phone, but I really think that's the case. It looks a little bit more crisp on the Oneplus One screen. Okay, and that should be expected. The Oneplus One is a more expensive phone. This the Idol 3 you can pick up for $199, or I picked up for $199. It's $249 now, and the Oneplus One, I paid $350 because I got the 64 gigabyte version. Okay, so now I've turned the brightness down to a minimum, and you can see that the Oneplus One's screen brightness is able to go a lot lower than that of the Idol 3, which I don't know if that's important to you guys or not, but it is very, very dim. So I'm going to turn it up just a touch more. I'll turn it up to about there. Okay, in terms of speed and fluidity, both phones feel very fluid. The Oneplus One runs a 32-bit processor, but it runs a better processor. It's the Snapdragon 801. It's a little bit more powerful. And the Idol 3 runs the Snapdragon 615, which is a quad or an octa-core that runs 4 cores at a time. So it either runs 4 powerful cores or 4 weaker cores, depending on the task that it's doing. That's to optimize battery life. In terms of storage, so my Oneplus One is the 64 gigabyte edition. This was $350 off contract, completely unlocked. The Idol 3 is a 16 gigabytes of storage, and also came completely unlocked. The Oneplus One has 3 gigabytes of RAM. The Idol 3 has 2 gigabytes of RAM. Now, if you're not doing gaming and stuff, I don't even think you'd be able to tell the difference. Now, the Oneplus One, it has a 13 megapixel camera on the back, and this also has a 13 megapixel camera on the back. The front-facing camera on the Idol 3 is an 8 megapixel camera, so you could do some HD video conferencing. And I don't recall what the front-facing camera is on the Oneplus One, but it's easy information to find. Both phones have on-screen buttons. The Idol 3 has expandable storage, whereas the Oneplus One does not. The Oneplus One is limited to 64 gigabytes, or 16 depending on the model that you purchase. The Idol 3 has an SD card slot, so you can install up to, I think, a 2 terabyte SD card. So plenty of storage on both phones. They both have LTE modems, and they both also have HSPA Plus, meaning, for those that don't understand what that means that these will work on T-Mobile or AT&T, and they will get 3G and 4G service, which is what you want. Now, if you've ever purchased a phone for T-Mobile from Verizon or AT&T, you'll notice that you get 4G or 2G. That's a problem. These phones will not have that problem. These phones have HSPA Plus, which is 3G, and they also have 4G LTE, so you'll get 4G LTE and 3G on both of these phones with AT&T or T-Mobile or any GSM carrier that has those bands. I've done some benchmarking in some other videos, so I'm not going to do it here. But for overall, both phones are good. In terms of budget, I think that budget-wise, I think that the Idol 3 is a little bit better deal. For, unless you're doing gaming, I feel like the Idol 3, I mean, it's thinner. It's a little bit thinner. It's a little bit newer. It's obviously not quite it doesn't have quite the hardware of the Oneplus One, but I also only paid $200, whereas this was almost $400. So in terms of function versus cost, I think that the Idol 3 has a lot to bring to the table. The Oneplus One's a great value too, but I still think the Idol 3 has a little bit of an edge over it. Now, they both have great battery life. They both have 3,000 milliamp hour batteries, which is great. They both have fast charging, so you can charge this phone up to 100% excuse me, in about 90 minutes. And the OnePlus One takes about 2 hours. So very similar. I mean, they're both great phones. So if you're looking for performance and not so worried about cost, I'd definitely get the OnePlus One. If you're on a tight budget and you have limited funding, I would very seriously consider the Idol 3. They're both great phones, and hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea about which phone to buy. If you have any questions, please leave them in the on the YouTube video, and I'll try to get back to you and answer them. Thank you. Bye-bye.